None of us like to be labeled. To label someone is to stop seeing them as a whole person and a complex person. To label someone is to put them in a box, to categorize them, to simplify them so it makes it easier to know whether they're good or evil, winner, loser, friend, foe. But actually, whether labels are helpful or harmful depends on who is doing the labeling and for what purpose. I think there are some labels we should aspire to. Labels that actually help us to become whole persons, persons with all the wonder and beauty and complexity that our Creator had in mind for us. And those labels are given to us by the only one who has the right to name us. So while I don't approve of calling each other names, when God is doing the name calling, it's something for us to celebrate. And that's what we are celebrating this morning. Baptism has deep roots in the Christian tradition and the Jewish tradition that we came from. And it's the baptism of Jesus himself that helps us grasp its rich meaning. When Jesus was baptized, God called him a name. As he was coming up from the waters of the Jordan, a voice was heard, "You are my beloved Son." That was a label, a declaration of identity. You are. Not you should or you oughta or you will, but not words of duty, but identity, name calling. That's what baptism is. It's submitting to God's name calling. At the heart of all our baptisms is that we are named, we are christened by God, we are marked for life. You are loved. You are mine. You are worthy because I have made you worthy and I have an intention for you. We sometimes mistakenly think that the milestone of baptism is a mark of spiritual achievement, as if this day of baptism is something that we have strived for since we began to think and act for ourselves, and that now at last we have achieved a sufficient measure of knowledge, of faith, of righteousness, or what have you, and that now we can, in good conscience, accept the rite of baptism, as if we made it, we did it. Baptism is not so much a rite of passage or moving from one level of maturity into another. It's a naming ritual. You who are being baptized today, we're not asking you to demonstrate that you are wise enough, holy enough, faithful enough, biblically smart enough, or anything enough. We only need to know that you have heard God calling you by name, and that you are willing to take on this name, and that you are ready to devote the rest of your life to learning how to live into this name. What you are doing this morning is saying yes to what God has already said to you. When God invited you to be part of God's family in Christ and to join with other members of this family. And that's the other thing that I just want to underline for us all this morning, that baptism is not a solitary naming. You're not being given a name that no one else has. some parents are known to do, choose a name to distinguish their child from other children. The more unusual and unique name, the better. There's nothing wrong with that. But in baptism, that's not what's happening. We are being given a family name. It's the same name that everyone baptized before you was given. God's beloved and chosen child. In today's Old Testament reading from Joshua 24, we see a great example of this idea. It's a famous text, and you recognize those words as Ed read them, and they're quoted often, usually out of context, and thank you for that context, Ed. These words came at a critical juncture in the life of the people of Israel, when many were turning to the gods of their neighbors instead of the God Yahweh who delivered them from slavery. Joshua stood before them and made a powerful declaration. Choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served or the gods of the Amorites. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Now, this often gets read in order to inspire us to make individual internal choices. We are personally urged to follow the way of Jesus in our daily lives instead of the many gods of this world. And that's good advice, of course. But there was a lot more at stake here in Joshua. Joshua did not ask individual Israelites to make a moral decision for themselves. He put the question to the tribes and families and clans of Israel to choose the family of their allegiance. And he was not even speaking for himself alone. As for me and my household, Joshua said. And by that he did not mean a nuclear American family consisting of a mom and dad and 2.5 children. It was an extended household, a larger collection of individuals located in an even larger clan, within a larger yet tribe, within a larger yet people of Israel. He was saying to all these groups, examine your alignments. Declare your loyalties. Decide which family will determine your identity. The family of Yahweh, the deliverer of the poor and oppressed, that is our household's choice. Or the false and hedonistic gods of the nations around you. He was demanding them to choose their family name. And they chose wisely. They answered together as a family of families, as a community of communities. Far be it from us that we should forsake Yahweh to serve other gods. For it is Yahweh our God who brought us and our ancestors up from the land of Egypt out of the house of slavery. We also will serve Yahweh, for he is our God. See, there's the naming thing again. They're naming Yahweh, our God, the deliverer. So the naming cycle is complete. God initiates the naming, calls us by name, and we complete the family circle when we accept the name and respond to the name and name God in return as our God. That's what baptism is. An opportunity for those being baptized and for the church as a whole to publicly affirm our identity in Christ. In baptism, we commit ourselves to journey with a people who have the same name and know it, who are committed together to live into our baptismal identity. In baptism, we claim a name for ourselves which God has already given us, my beloved child. And we become bonded to a family of God's beloved children in order to become that whole person that God intended for us at creation. John Bell, the musician, Scottish composer, theologian, musician, wrote a simple song that we plan to sing this afternoon at the outdoor baptism. So for the benefit of those who can't be there, here are the words about being marked with God's seal, marked for life. Take, oh, take me as I am. Summon out what I shall be. Set your seal upon my heart and live in me. Josh Wenger, Josh Keim, Seth Keim, Reuben Mast, we are your family. And today we celebrate your choice to take the family name and seek to live into its rich meaning. And God give you courage and strength for the road ahead of you. So here's what's happening this morning. We're going to hear these four young men give their statements of faith, their testimony of what this means for them today. And then they will together take their baptismal vows in front of their family, their church family, where they will literally say yes to questions about their family identity. And then we, the rest of their family, will respond to our yes, will respond, with our yes to God and our yes to them. So you should be prepared with the hymnal worship book number 777. And after all these yeses have been exchanged, we will baptize Josh Wenger here on the stage, and the other three will be baptized at 1:30 this afternoon in the stream that runs through Troutbeck Farm, where those three live. And all of you are encouraged and invited to attend that if you're able. The street address is in the bulletin announcement, and we'll get you there if you have GPS. Their directions were also emailed on Friday, or Thursday and Friday. So now, will the four of you please come up here to the microphone before your family and share your statements with us in the order listed. And Mariah, you can come up also.